The world's gaze is fixed on the British royal family. But what if everything we thought we knew about the monarchy was about to change forever? Imagine a prophecy, a divine whisper so powerful, so certain, that it foretold the very future of the throne, leaving the fate of King Charles and the royal bloodline in a twist no one saw coming. For decades, the public has waited for the reign of King Charles. Born the heir apparent, he was destined to be the monarch, the man who would take the crown from his beloved mother, Queen Elizabeth II. But a mysterious revelation, one that has remained hidden from the public eye, tells a different story. A story that shakes the foundations of what we've been taught about succession, the monarchy, and the very fate of Britain's future. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. In this video, we delve into a shocking truth. One that comes not from the tabloids or royal insiders, but from an unexpected source, Pope Leo XIV. Known for his quiet yet influential role in religious matters, Pope Leo XIV's recent statements about the British monarchy have sent shockwaves across the globe. According to him, divine prophecy, combined with the royal family's deepest secrets, foretells that King Charles will never actually rule as the monarch. Instead, Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, will ascend directly to the throne beside her husband, Prince William. The implications of such a claim are staggering. For generations, the royal family has been defined by its unbroken line of succession, a lineage that seems inviolable. But what if the crown was never meant for Charles? What if the prophecy that Pope Leo XIV revealed to the highest members of the royal family was not merely a whisper, but an undeniable truth that could not be ignored? This isn't just another conspiracy theory or rumor. This is a truth that the royal family has kept hidden for decades. It involves power struggles, hidden agendas, and the struggle for control of one of the oldest and most powerful institutions in the world. It's about destiny, choice, and the way the future of an empire can be rewritten by forces beyond anyone's control. So how did we get here? How did a prophecy, so long buried in the archives of royal lore, suddenly surface to change everything we know about the monarchy? In this exposé, we will uncover the story of Kate Middleton's surprising rise to power, the incredible shifts within the royal family, and the truth about King Charles's fate that has been carefully concealed for years. But before we dive into the mystery and drama that surrounds the royal family's future, let's first step back and examine the heart of the matter, the monarchy's historical significance and what it means for the entire world. The British monarchy has long been considered the epitome of stability. For centuries, the crown passed from one sovereign to the next, each king or queen carrying the weight of an entire nation's hopes and dreams. From the reign of Queen Victoria to the era of Queen Elizabeth II, the monarchy has symbolized more than just royal authority. It represents an enduring legacy, an unbroken line that connects the past to the present, and it serves as a beacon of continuity for the nation. When Queen Elizabeth passed away in 2022, the world watched in awe as the heir to the throne, her son Charles, prepared for his coronation. It was a moment that seemed inevitable. After all, Charles had spent his entire life preparing for this moment, waiting for the day when he would be crowned as king. His coronation was set in stone, until it wasn't. What if everything we've been led to believe about the future of the monarchy is wrong? What if Charles's reign was never meant to happen, a mere blip in the royal lineage? This is where the prophecy comes into play. Pope Leo XIV, a figure who holds far more influence behind the scenes than many realize, claims that the throne will not pass to Charles at all. Instead, the prophecy points to Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, as the true future queen. But how could this be? How could the monarchy, so steeped in tradition, skip a generation and install Kate, a commoner turned royal, as the reigning monarch? This prophecy isn't just an empty prediction. It's tied to centuries of royal decisions, religious influence, and even secret royal plans. The journey to understanding this prophecy begins with the revelation of Pope Leo XIV's role in royal affairs. As the head of the Catholic Church, his influence extends far beyond matters of faith. He has quietly advised members of the royal family, offering counsel on matters that affect not only their spiritual well-being, but their political futures as well. His words are rarely publicized, yet they hold immense weight among the world's elite. What Pope Leo XIV revealed to the royal family in a private meeting shocked even the most seasoned members of the monarchy. According to sources close to the Vatican, the Pope delivered a message that was not merely prophetic, but a directive. The crown will skip King Charles, and instead, it will pass directly to Kate Middleton. The reasons behind this decision are as complex as they are shocking. The prophecy suggests that divine forces, combined with royal calculations, have determined that Kate is the one destined to lead the monarchy into a new era. Her ascension, while seemingly improbable, aligns with a greater vision for the monarchy's future, a vision that embraces change, modernization, and a new, dynamic leadership. It's a vision that is in stark contrast to the long-standing traditions that have held the royal family in place for centuries. So, how did Kate Middleton go from a commoner to the future queen in the eyes of the Vatican? How did the royal family, known for its unyielding traditions, decide that she was the one to break the mold? And what does this mean for the future of the British monarchy? In the coming chapters, we'll uncover the dramatic moments that led to this shocking decision, starting with the history of the British royal succession and the prophecy that has loomed over it for centuries. We'll explore how the royal family, at first, resisted the prophecy but eventually came to accept it as an inevitable truth. Along the way, we'll examine the secret meetings, the hidden agendas, and the untold stories that have shaped this monumental shift in royal power. But more than just the political maneuvering, we'll delve into the emotional consequences of this decision. What does it mean for King Charles, who has spent his entire life waiting for this moment? How does his relationship with William and Kate evolve as the crown is pulled from his grasp? And how will Kate, who has long been the subject of intense public scrutiny, rise to the occasion and lead the nation as queen? This story isn't just about the monarchy. It's about destiny, family, and the dramatic tension between duty and desire. The answers will shock you, but they will also provide a window into the very heart of the royal family's future. Stay with us as we unravel the truth behind the prophecy, the power struggles, and the unexpected twist that has reshaped the British monarchy forever. The prophecy that has sent shockwaves through the royal family was not discovered in a dusty old book nor whispered through the halls of Buckingham Palace. No, this was a prophecy that had been known only to a select few, the highest echelons of power within both the Vatican and the royal family. It wasn't public knowledge, nor was it meant to be. It was something that was passed on, generation after generation, through confidential meetings, cryptic letters, and, of course, a shared understanding that the future of the monarchy was never as simple as it seemed. The origins of this prophecy remain shrouded in mystery. According to some sources, it was first revealed centuries ago, long before Queen Elizabeth's reign, by an anonymous figure within the church. Others claim that it was a vision, something so deeply spiritual that even the most devout believers were hesitant to acknowledge its implications. Whatever its origin, the message was clear. The British monarchy would undergo an unprecedented shift, a transition that would defy all expectations. For years, whispers of this prophecy circulated in the royal court. But it wasn't until Pope Leo XIV ascended to the papacy that these whispers began to carry weight. The Pope, known for his deep involvement in both spiritual and worldly matters, is believed to have seen the prophecy in a private collection of Vatican texts. According to insiders, it was during a personal meeting with Prince William, then the Duke of Cambridge, that Pope Leo XIV confirmed what many had suspected. Charles, despite being the direct heir to the throne, would not be the next monarch. Instead, the prophecy stated that the crown would pass directly to Kate Middleton, Prince William's wife. The implications of this revelation were enormous. For centuries, the British royal family had adhered to strict rules of succession. The firstborn son was always the one to inherit the throne, regardless of who sat at the helm before him. But this prophecy overturned that very structure. It suggested that Charles would never ascend to the throne, and that Kate, the future queen consort, would rise alongside William, wielding power in a way that no royal consort had before her. So why did Pope Leo XIV choose to reveal this secret, and what prompted him to do so at such a critical moment in history? Some suggest that the Vatican's involvement in British royal affairs is far deeper than the public knows. The Catholic Church has long had ties to the British monarchy, though these connections have been quietly maintained behind closed doors. From the time of King Henry VIII's break with Rome to the present day, there has always been an underlying tension between the monarchy's Anglican faith and the power of the Vatican. And Pope Leo XIV, a man known for his political savvy and religious foresight, understood the role he could play in guiding the royal family through this historic transformation. But this prophecy, if true, wasn't just about religion. It was about destiny. Pope Leo XIV understood that the monarchy needed to evolve in order to survive. The world had changed, and so too must the institution that had long been the symbol of stability in the United Kingdom. The prophecy, as unsettling as it was for some, was seen by others as a necessary step in securing the monarchy's future. In fact, Pope Leo XIV is said to have presented the prophecy to William and Kate in a private audience, where he explained the role that fate, and perhaps even divine will, had in their destiny. At first, William was understandably skeptical. How could something so drastic, so fundamental to the monarchy's existence, be real? But as the Pope laid out the details, how the monarchy's future was intertwined with a greater, almost spiritual plan, William's skepticism began to waver. Kate, on the other hand, remained silent throughout most of the conversation. But according to those close to her, she wasn't surprised by the Pope's revelation. After all, Kate had been the cornerstone of the royal family's future for years. Her calm demeanor, her poise in the face of public scrutiny, and her natural ability to balance the demands of royal life with the expectations of the public made her the perfect candidate for a new kind of leadership. The prophecy itself wasn't cryptic, but its meaning was layered. It suggested that Charles's reign would be short-lived and that Kate would ascend to the throne with William as a pair. The reasoning behind this prediction was rooted not only in divine prophecy, but also in a shifting understanding of the monarchy's role in the modern world. As much as the royal family might have hoped to continue on the path that had been established for generations, the world around them was changing. The monarchy's relevance was being questioned, not just by the public, but also by the growing wave of political change sweeping across Europe and the world. There was a demand for a monarchy that could evolve, one that could connect with the people in a new way, embrace progress, and reflect the diversity and complexity of modern Britain. Kate, with her image of grace, intelligence, and relatability, was seen as the future face of this new monarchy. In contrast, Charles, despite being beloved by many, was increasingly seen as part of the old guard, a symbol of a past era that was beginning to feel outdated in the face of modern challenges. The prophecy, then, was not just a prediction, it was a message. It was a call for the monarchy to evolve, to embrace new leadership, and to face the challenges of a changing world. But the question remained, how would this revelation be handled? Would the royal family be able to accept such a monumental shift in their future, or would they resist the inevitable, clinging to tradition even as the tides of history swept them forward? In the next chapters, we will delve into the secret meetings that followed the Pope's revelation, the reactions of King Charles, and the emotional turmoil that rippled through the royal family as they grappled with the prophecy's implications. We will also explore how Kate Middleton, the woman who once was simply the Duchess of Cambridge, began her quiet rise to the throne, a rise that would alter the course of history forever. The history of the British royal succession is one of both tradition and turmoil, defined by centuries of unbroken lines of power. It's a lineage that has seen wars, betrayals, and unthinkable decisions, all in the name of preserving the crown. The monarchy, while steeped in tradition, has also been a symbol of adaptability and resilience, constantly navigating the shifting political, social, and religious landscapes of the world. At the heart of this story lies one fundamental truth. The British crown is a symbol of continuity. It's a beacon of stability in a world that has often been in flux. And at its core, the system of succession has always been one of the monarchy's most important pillars. For centuries, the line of succession has followed a rigid path. First, the eldest son of the reigning monarch would inherit the throne, securing the continuity of the royal family. This unbroken system has seen the crowning of some of the most powerful monarchs in history, from Queen Elizabeth I to King Charles III, but it also brings with it inevitable questions about destiny and power. Historically, the British royal family was primarily defined by a rule of primogeniture, where the throne would pass to the firstborn son, regardless of other factors. This system of inheritance ensured that succession was relatively straightforward. However, it wasn't without its complications. Take, for example, the reign of King Henry VIII, whose desire for a male heir would radically alter the course of British history. When Henry VIII's first marriage to Catherine of Aragon failed to produce a male heir, he broke with the Catholic Church and established the Church of England, not just for religious reasons, but for the survival of the monarchy itself. It was an act of defiance, one that redefined both the crown and the relationship between the monarchy and religion. The centuries that followed were marked by similar struggles, battles for power, shifts in the rules of succession, and political maneuvering to maintain control over the throne. Queen Elizabeth I, who had no children, left England in a state of uncertainty upon her death, sparking the question of who would inherit the crown. This ultimately led to the accession of James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England, and the beginning of the Stuart dynasty. From then on, each royal succession came with its own challenges and conflicts. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 saw the overthrow of King James II, the last Catholic monarch of England, as the throne passed to his Protestant daughter, Mary II, and her husband, William of Orange. This event highlighted the delicate balance of power between monarchy, religion, and parliament. In the centuries that followed, the rules of succession continued to evolve. The Act of Settlement in 1701 ensured that only Protestants could inherit the throne, while the Royal Marriages Act of 1772 sought to control royal unions, making it illegal for members of the royal family to marry without the sovereign's consent. These laws were designed to protect the integrity and continuity of the monarchy, ensuring that it remained a stable and powerful institution. However, despite these attempts at control, the monarchy was never immune to the challenges of succession. The abdication of King Edward VIII in 1936 is one of the most famous instances of royal succession being disrupted. Edward VIII, who became king after the death of his father, George V, shocked the world by abdicating the throne in order to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. This decision set in motion a series of events that led to the ascension of his brother, George VI, and the eventual reign of his daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Edward's abdication not only shocked the public, but also forever altered the course of the monarchy, highlighting how vulnerable the institution could be in moments of personal crisis. Yet, even with these disruptions, the system of royal succession has largely remained intact. The line of succession has always been tied to bloodlines, passing from one generation to the next, with little room for deviation. This unyielding tradition is at the heart of the monarchy's power. Its consistency and continuity have helped maintain its position as a symbol of national identity and authority. But what happens when that line of succession is called into question? What happens when the very foundation of the monarchy, built on centuries of unbroken bloodlines and rules of inheritance, is challenged by an external force, by prophecy? The answer, according to Pope Leo XIV's revelation, is that the monarchy is not as rigid as history might suggest. While the royal family has always adhered to strict rules of succession, those rules have been bent before, and they can be bent again. The prophecy, which has remained hidden for so long, presents a challenge to the monarchy's most sacred principle, the rule of inheritance. For centuries, the royal family has followed the age-old practice of passing the crown from one monarch to the next, based on lineage. But the prophecy introduces an unprecedented twist. The crown, instead of passing from father to son, will skip a generation. King Charles, despite his decades of preparation, will never wear the crown. Instead, it will go directly to Kate Middleton, who has been groomed, both publicly and privately, to take on this immense responsibility. The question now becomes, why? Why would a divine prophecy come to pass that challenges centuries of royal tradition and history? Why would the throne pass not to the heir apparent, but to the consort, the wife of the future king? The answer, as we will explore in the next chapters, lies not just in the prophecy, but in the changing role of the monarchy itself. As the world evolves, so too must the institution that has long defined the British state. The monarchy is facing new challenges, political, social, and global, that require a leader who can adapt to the times. Kate Middleton, with her poise, grace, and ability to connect with the public, represents the future of the monarchy, one that is more in tune with the needs of the nation. But before we delve deeper into Kate's rise and the royal family's response to this shocking revelation, it's essential to understand the profound emotional impact this shift in the line of succession has had on King Charles. For a man who has spent his entire life preparing for the throne, the news that he would never wear the crown is a crushing blow. How has he reconciled this reality, and what role will he play in the future of the monarchy? In the next chapter, we will explore the emotional toll this revelation has taken on Charles, his relationship with his son William, and the deepening rift within the royal family that threatens to change the monarchy forever. The day Queen Elizabeth II passed away marked a pivotal moment in British history. For decades, the world had known her as the unshakable monarch, the symbol of stability in a world rife with change. Her reign spanned over 7 decades, a testament to her resilience and dedication to the crown. But with her death came the inevitable transition, and the mantle of monarchy fell to her eldest son, Charles. At first, Charles's ascension was met with widespread support and respect. The world's media turned its focus to the new king, offering condolences to a family in mourning while celebrating the life of a monarch who had shaped much of the modern world. The public sentiment was largely positive, as many saw Charles as a steady, capable man, ready to take on the responsibilities that had been his for so long. It was a moment of inevitability, a moment that seemed ordained by history. But as the days, weeks, and months passed, the weight of the crown began to bear heavily on King Charles. He was no longer the Prince of Wales, no longer the first in line. He was now king, but in a world that had dramatically shifted since his mother first ascended to the throne. The monarchy, once a symbol of unassailable power, now stood on the precipice of a new era, one that seemed uncertain and, perhaps, less certain than ever. Charles's reign, brief as it may have been, was soon overshadowed by the very same tensions and struggles that had plagued his years as the heir apparent. For much of his life, Charles had patiently awaited his turn at the throne, but when it finally came, it did so under the shadow of his mother's towering legacy. The expectations placed on him were overwhelming, and as the prophecy began to take shape, those expectations quickly began to shift. At first, Charles was reluctant to even entertain the idea that his reign could be anything but successful. After all, he had worked for decades to become king. But as he was confronted with the weight of the prophecy and its implications, a deep sense of uncertainty began to seep into his thoughts. How could he continue to rule when the very future of the monarchy was no longer in his hands? What did this revelation mean for his own legacy? And how would the public and his family react to the idea that his reign might be cut short? As the prophecy revealed, Charles's reign would not be the one to carry the monarchy into the future. It was a devastating realization, one that Charles struggled to accept. The promise of a long-awaited coronation, the culmination of decades of waiting, was now overshadowed by the knowledge that he would never be able to truly claim the throne in the way he had envisioned. The weight of that knowledge was not just personal, it was political. The very structure of the monarchy was being called into question, and Charles was left to grapple with his place in a rapidly changing institution. His reaction to the prophecy was, at first, one of denial. How could such a thing be true? He had lived his life in preparation for this moment. He had endured the scrutiny of the public, the harsh criticism of his every move, all to take his rightful place as monarch. To be told that his time had come and gone before it had even truly begun was a bitter pill to swallow. But as the days passed, Charles began to understand the gravity of the situation. He had spent a lifetime learning the ins and outs of royal duty, preparing himself to be a monarch in the eyes of both the British people in the wider world. But what he had failed to fully understand was that the monarchy was not just about a title. It was about the will of the people, and more than that, it was about fate. And fate, as it turned out, had other plans for him. The question then became not whether Charles could be king, but whether he could accept his new role within the monarchy's shifting structure. His acceptance of the prophecy would not be easy. As he struggled with the truth of his situation, he also had to confront the reality of what this meant for his relationship with his son, William. For decades, Charles had been preparing William to take on the responsibilities of the crown, but now, it seemed that William would ascend to the throne much sooner than anyone had anticipated. This revelation, though, brought with it not only personal turmoil, but also a deepening rift within the royal family. How would William react to his father's diminished role? How would Kate Middleton, once again in the background as the future consort, now come to the forefront as the key player in the monarchy's future? The answer to that question was as unpredictable as the royal family itself. For Charles, the acceptance of his reduced role would not be easy. He had spent his entire life as the heir to the throne, and now, in the blink of an eye, he was being told that he would not be the one to carry the monarchy forward. He would not be the one to lead the nation into the future. Instead, it would be William and Kate, two figures who, though highly respected, were still relatively young in their royal journey. This moment of uncertainty in Charles's reign was not just a personal crisis. It was a crisis for the entire monarchy. For centuries, the British royal family had adhered to the rules of primogeniture, where the throne would pass from father to son, from one generation to the next. But now, as the prophecy unfolded, it became clear that this system was being called into question. If Charles, the direct heir to the throne, could be bypassed in favor of his son and daughter-in-law, what did that mean for the future of the monarchy? The consequences of this prophecy were profound, not just for the royal family, but for the entire nation. As Charles grappled with the personal loss of his crown, the country was forced to reckon with the idea that the monarchy, an institution that had stood for over 1,000 years, was not immune to the forces of change. Yet, amid this uncertainty, one thing was clear: Kate Middleton's future as queen was now set in motion. The world had watched as she had grown from a commoner to the future consort of the king, but now, as the prophecy revealed, her role would be much greater than anyone had anticipated. Kate was not just a passive observer in this royal drama. She was becoming a central figure in the monarchy's future, a role that would forever alter the course of British history. As the chapter of Charles's reign came to a close, the question remained: how would Kate rise to the occasion? Would she be able to shoulder the weight of the crown alongside her husband, Prince William, or would the pressures of power overwhelm her? The prophecy had set the stage for a new era, but it remained to be seen whether Kate and William could meet the challenges ahead. In the next chapter, we will explore Kate Middleton's unexpected rise to power and the royal family's quiet preparations to crown her as queen. How did she navigate the delicate balance of royal duty and public perception? And what role did she play in the larger story of the monarchy's evolution? From the moment she stepped into the public eye, Kate Middleton has been more than just the wife of Prince William. She has become the face of modern royalty, a poised, graceful figure who effortlessly balances royal duties with a personal touch that resonates with people across the world. While her rise from a commoner to the future queen consort of the United Kingdom seemed improbable to some, those who watched closely could see the undeniable qualities that made her the perfect candidate to shape the future of the monarchy. But what made Kate's journey more than just a royal marriage? Why did the prophecy that would bypass King Charles focus on her as the key to the monarchy's future? It all began long before Kate walked down the aisle at Westminster Abbey in 2011. She had been under public scrutiny since her teenage years, always in the shadow of a future that, for a long time, seemed out of reach. Born Catherine Elizabeth Middleton in 1982, Kate grew up in a middle-class family in Berkshire, England. Unlike many of her royal counterparts, she wasn't born into the glittering world of aristocracy or high society. Her family, though affluent, had no royal connections, and Kate's early life seemed far removed from the exclusive, highly scrutinized world of the British monarchy. Still, from the moment she and Prince William met while studying at St. Andrews University, there was an undeniable connection between the two. While their relationship initially flew under the radar, it was clear to those close to them that Kate was destined for a much larger role than the public initially realized. Her poise, intelligence, and ability to adapt to the pressures of royal life made her stand out even before she officially became a part of the royal family. Unlike other royal figures, Kate was relatable. She was a commoner, raised with a strong sense of independence and modesty, and yet she possessed an inner strength that made her an ideal consort for William. Throughout their courtship, Kate was not only graceful under the public's intense scrutiny, but she also demonstrated the quiet strength of character that would define her role in the years to come. As the years passed, Kate's place in the royal family became more secure. But it wasn't just her marriage to William that solidified her future. It was her ability to navigate the world of royal duties with dignity and sincerity. As she moved from a newlywed to a mother and eventually the Duchess of Cambridge, she consistently demonstrated a remarkable understanding of what the monarchy needed in order to stay relevant in the modern world. However, Kate's rise was never without its challenges. The pressure on her to bear children, particularly a son who could secure the royal line of succession, was immense. For years, speculation surrounded her private life, her marriage, and her ability to produce heirs. When Kate gave birth to her first child, Prince George, in 2013, the entire nation held its breath. The birth of George not only solidified her place in the royal family, but also cemented her position as the future mother of the nation. Her subsequent children, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, added to her growing public appeal. With each child, Kate demonstrated her ability to balance motherhood with the demanding role of being a public figure. Her natural grace and dedication to her family made her an emblem of modern royalty, something that resonated with a nation and a world that increasingly wanted to see the monarchy evolve. But it wasn't just her family life that garnered attention. Kate's philanthropic work, especially in areas related to mental health, childhood development, and social welfare, further bolstered her reputation. She wasn't merely a figurehead. She was actively involved in shaping policy and supporting causes close to her heart. It was clear that Kate was not content to simply be a passive royal consort. She was becoming a leader in her own right. In the eyes of many, Kate had become the future of the monarchy. While William was the heir apparent, it was Kate who had proven herself capable of taking on the role of queen. And as the monarchy evolved, Kate was increasingly seen as the one who could bridge the gap between tradition and the modern world. This was no longer the age of stuffy royal events and rigid protocol. This was an era in which the monarchy had to be relatable, connected to the people, and able to embrace change. Kate represented this shift perfectly, but as much as she had proven herself to the world, her role was always defined by her marriage to William. The prophecy that emerged, however, painted a new picture. The idea that Kate would ascend to the throne alongside William was not merely about her being a suitable consort. It was about her stepping into a leadership role in her own right, one that would allow her to influence not just the monarchy, but the entire nation. The prophecy made it clear that, in the future, Kate would be more than just the consort of the king. She would become the symbol of the monarchy's future, a figure capable of leading Britain into the 21st century with a modern vision of leadership. This would require not only public appeal, but the political and emotional acumen to navigate the challenges of royal life. And in this new era, Kate's relationship with her husband, Prince William, would take on new meaning. Together, they would be the face of a monarchy reborn, one that looked forward to the future while respecting the past. As the prophecy gained attention within the royal family, it was clear that Kate's role was evolving. The future wasn't just about Prince William being crowned king. It was about both of them, as a team, leading the monarchy into its next chapter. The shift in the line of succession, which had long been seen as a fixed, unchanging path, now seemed to bend toward a new direction. Kate, the once quiet royal consort, was becoming the future queen, no longer just a partner to the king, but a leader in her own right. This transformation wasn't just about titles and ceremonies. It was about the monarchy's ability to remain relevant in an ever-changing world. As Britain faced new challenges, political, social, and economic, the need for a monarch who could connect with the people, who could represent a nation in transition, was more pressing than ever. Kate, with her relatability, poise, and modern sensibility, had emerged as the perfect figure to guide the monarchy forward. But how would this new role affect her relationship with William? And how would the royal family adjust to this fundamental shift in power? In the next chapter, we will explore how the monarchy reacted to the revelation that the crown would pass to Kate alongside William, and how Charles's role, once secure, began to fade into the background. When the prophecy was first revealed to the royal family, it was not just a matter of divine fate or religious doctrine. It was a matter of survival, of adapting to the changing tides of history and securing the monarchy's place in a modern world that was rapidly evolving. For King Charles, the news was not only a shock, but a direct challenge to everything he had worked for. His entire life had been shaped around the idea that he would one day take the throne, and now, that reality was slipping away. For most of his life, Charles had been the heir apparent, the future monarch in waiting. His transition from Prince of Wales to King had been expected, a moment that had been decades in the making. But with the prophecy revealing that Charles's reign would be short-lived, the foundations of his entire existence as a royal figure began to crack. At first, Charles was hesitant to believe the prophecy. He had spent too many years preparing for this moment to simply accept that it might never come. But as the details of the prophecy became clearer, and as his advisors, and even some members of the royal family began to speak in hushed tones about the inevitability of the future, Charles had no choice but to confront the reality of the situation. The moment he was told about the prophecy, Charles reacted as anyone in his position might, with disbelief and a sense of betrayal. How could this be happening? How could everything he had worked for, everything he had been prepared for, be taken from him so easily? He had waited so long for this moment, and now, it seemed, he would never get the chance to fulfill his destiny. But the prophecy wasn't just a blow to his personal ambitions. It was a blow to the very idea of monarchy itself. The crown had always been passed down from father to son, from one generation to the next, ensuring the continuity of the royal family. The idea of skipping a generational leap that bypassed Charles entirely, was something that had never been done before. It was a radical departure from centuries of tradition, a move that shook the very foundations of the monarchy. In the early days of the revelation, Charles struggled with the idea that he would not be able to wear the crown. It was not just about power, it was about the responsibility that came with being the monarch. The king was meant to serve as the protector of the nation, the head of state, the figure who would guide Britain through uncertain times. The idea that he would not have the chance to fulfill this duty was devastating. But as the weeks passed, and Charles was forced to confront the reality of his situation, something began to shift. The shock of the prophecy began to give way to a reluctant acceptance. After all, Charles was not the only one affected by this revelation. The entire royal family had been thrown into a state of flux. In private meetings with his son William, Charles attempted to come to terms with the prophecy. He knew that William would be the one to carry the torch, to lead the monarchy into a new era. But the thought of stepping aside, of willingly conceding his place in history, was a difficult pill to swallow. William, for his part, understood the magnitude of the situation. He had long been prepared to one day take the throne, but he had never imagined that it would happen in such a dramatic and unprecedented way. As the future king, he knew that the monarchy was at a crossroads. There would be no easy path forward, and the choices made in the coming months and years would shape the future of the British royal family. In many ways, William's role as the future monarch had always been clear. He had been groomed for this moment from a young age, and his transition from the heir apparent to the reigning king seemed inevitable. But the prophecy and the realization that Kate would ascend directly to the throne by his side added a layer of complexity to his future. As the days passed and Charles continued to wrestle with the idea of his own diminished role in the monarchy, the rest of the royal family began to react. Prince Harry, who had long felt sidelined by the royal hierarchy, found himself at odds with his father over the direction of the monarchy. Harry's relationship with Charles had always been strained, but the news of the prophecy seemed to deepen the rift between them. While Harry had never been the direct heir to the throne, he had always been a key figure in the royal family. Now, with the future of the monarchy in question, Harry's role seemed increasingly uncertain. For Harry, the prophecy represented yet another instance of the monarchy's rigid structure coming into conflict with the needs of the people. He had long criticized the royal family for its outdated traditions and its inability to adapt to the modern world. The prophecy and the subsequent shift in the line of succession seemed to validate his concerns. If the monarchy could so easily bypass Charles, what did that mean for the future of the royal family as a whole? And what did it mean for his own place within it? As the royal family navigated these turbulent waters, it became clear that the monarchy was facing a crisis of identity. The traditional rules of succession, which had always been so steadfast, were now being questioned. The once unquestionable line of inheritance had been broken, and the path forward was uncertain. Yet, in the midst of this uncertainty, one thing remained clear. Kate Middleton was poised to play a central role in the monarchy's future. While the prophecy had certainly shocked the family, it had also illuminated the necessity of change. Kate's grace, poise, and growing influence had already made her a beloved figure in the eyes of the public. But now, she was being asked to step into a role far larger than that of a mere consort. She was not just the future wife of the king. She was now the queen in waiting, an unprecedented position for a royal consort. As the royal family grappled with the fallout from the prophecy, Kate's role in the monarchy began to take shape. She would not merely be the supportive partner at William's side. She would be a co-ruler, a force in her own right, whose influence would shape the future of Britain. In the coming chapters, we will explore how Kate's role evolved, how she navigated the political and emotional challenges of becoming queen, and how her relationship with William was tested by the pressures of the monarchy. We will also examine how the public reacted to this unprecedented shift in royal power, and how the monarchy itself began to change under the weight of prophecy and destiny. The moment of reckoning for King Charles had arrived. What had once seemed like an inevitable and traditional passage of power, the passing of the crown from one monarch to the next, was now a bittersweet truth he had to come to terms with. For decades, Charles had stood by, waiting for his moment on the throne. His entire public and private life had been a preparation for the day he would take his mother's place. However, as the revelation of the prophecy sunk in, it became clear that this moment, this long-awaited coronation, would never happen in the way he had envisioned. Charles had spent most of his life preparing for this very role. He had worked tirelessly on his charity, the Prince's Trust, and had become a vocal advocate for environmental issues long before they became mainstream. His passion for the arts, his deep intellectual curiosity, and his commitment to public service had made him a respected figure around the world. And yet, none of it could alter the truth that he would not be crowned king. The prophecy, which had initially seemed like an abstract concept, was now very real. Charles was being told that his time as monarch would be a brief one, much shorter than anyone had ever anticipated. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's death, it had seemed like the natural next step would be for Charles to assume his place as king. But now, a deeper force, the prophecy, was reshaping not just his future, but the future of the monarchy itself. The transition from being the long-standing heir apparent to being sidelined by fate was, unsurprisingly, a deeply personal and emotional struggle for Charles. He had waited for so long, endured years of public scrutiny, and weathered countless scandals, all with the hope that one day, the throne would be his. Now, he faced the reality of being bypassed. For a man whose public identity had been so tightly intertwined with the idea of the monarchy, this new understanding of his place in it felt almost like a betrayal. And yet, as difficult as it was for him to accept the prophecy, Charles began to understand that this might not be a complete loss for the monarchy. This was a shift, not just in power, but in purpose, a chance for the monarchy to evolve and grow in ways that might have seemed impossible before. The more Charles thought about it, the more he realized that the monarchy could no longer be the same. It needed to adapt, to change, to align itself with the world it was serving. The monarchy had long been a symbol of continuity, but as the world moved forward, it needed a new type of leadership, one that could bridge the gap between the past and the future. And who better to lead that charge than William and Kate? William, his son, had been groomed for this moment his entire life. His marriage to Kate had only strengthened his position as the future king. And Kate, always poised, always graceful, and always just the right balance of traditional and modern, had, unbeknownst to many, already become a symbol of the monarchy's future. Charles's acceptance of this future, though painful, was inevitable. The monarchy could not stand still. He understood that the crown could not remain bound by tradition if it was to continue to serve its people. The world was changing, and the monarchy needed to reflect those changes. As much as it hurt to admit it, Charles saw now that this change was not just inevitable, it was necessary. Over time, Charles began to work more closely with William and Kate, offering them his support as they prepared for their eventual rule. This wasn't easy for Charles, whose relationship with his son had always been complicated. They had shared a strained relationship, often characterized by distance and tension. But now, Charles saw his role in the monarchy differently. It was no longer about power, it was about legacy. He had the power to shape the monarchy's future, even if it wasn't going to be from the throne itself. One of the first steps Charles took was to initiate conversations with key advisors and members of the royal family. He knew that his diminished role would cause a ripple effect, not only within the family but across the country. For centuries, the British monarchy had been a symbol of stability. Suddenly, it would be forced to change, and the world needed to know that this change was being handled with care. Charles's plan, initially a quiet strategy, soon began to take shape. He would step back gracefully, allowing William and Kate to prepare for their future roles. He would continue to offer guidance and counsel, but he would do so as a father, not as a king. This was, in many ways, an emotional acceptance of his place in history, not as the king who would lead Britain into a new era, but as a man who had helped pave the way for the future monarchy. For Kate, this shift in Charles's role meant that she would need to prepare not just for her duties as consort, but for a leadership role in her own right. The weight of this new responsibility was immense, and she knew that the future of the monarchy rested heavily on her shoulders. Yet, Kate's ability to adapt to new roles, her skill in navigating public perception, and her growing political and royal savvy made her an ideal figure to take on this monumental task. For William, the pressure was also immense. As the future king, he would have to navigate the challenges of monarchy in a rapidly changing world. But unlike his father, William had the benefit of time. He had seen how the monarchy could evolve. He had witnessed the importance of balancing tradition with the needs of the people. And with Kate by his side, William knew that he was ready to take the reins of the monarchy. Charles's acceptance of his fate was not just about stepping aside for his son. It was about ensuring that the monarchy's future was secure. The prophecy had cast a shadow over the royal family, but in many ways, it had given Charles the clarity he needed. He realized that, while he would not wear the crown, his legacy could still be one of transformation and renewal for the monarchy. But there were still challenges to overcome. The public perception of Charles's reduced role would need to be managed carefully. The media had always been quick to judge, and this moment of transition would not be easy for the royal family to navigate. But Charles had learned long ago how to play the long game. He had survived scandals, criticism, and personal struggles. Now, he would navigate the future of the monarchy with the same quiet determination. As we move into the next chapters, we will explore how the royal family began to prepare for the future that the prophecy had foretold. What steps would William and Kate take to solidify their new roles? And how would Charles handle the inevitable fallout from this unprecedented change? The monarchy's future had shifted, and its leaders were ready to embrace their new destiny. The moment the prophecy took hold within the royal family, the subtle shift in power began. While the British public was still reeling from the shock of King Charles's uncertain reign, The royal family was already plotting a new future, one in which Kate Middleton, the once quiet consort, would not merely be a supporting figure. She would rise to become queen, not through the usual means of inheriting the throne after a king's death, but by divine destiny, as foretold by the prophecy. This shift, though incredibly dramatic, was not immediate. The royal family was known for its caution, its careful approach to change, and this moment was no different. While the prophecy had begun to influence the decisions made in royal circles, there was no official announcement yet. The royal family's internal dynamics were changing in private, but the world had not yet seen the public side of this monumental shift. It began with a quiet restructuring of the roles within the royal family. In the months following Queen Elizabeth's death, Charles began to withdraw from public duties, although he never formally relinquished his title as king. Instead, he began to make more deliberate moves to ensure that William and Kate were positioned to take on more royal responsibilities. At first, these shifts were subtle. William and Kate were given more visibility at state functions, charitable events, and high-profile meetings with world leaders. The message was clear: this was a monarchy in transition. Behind the scenes, the changes were even more profound. Charles, though publicly still the king, was spending more time on personal matters, reflecting on his reign and considering what legacy he would leave behind. The weight of the prophecy pressed heavily on him, but he knew that to truly support his son and daughter-in-law, he would need to step back, allowing them to prepare for the future. At the same time, Kate's role was evolving more rapidly than anyone anticipated. She was no longer just the loving wife of Prince William. She was becoming the future queen in waiting. Her leadership was not only on the rise within the family, it was becoming evident to the British people and the world. Public opinion was overwhelmingly positive. Kate's every move was watched and admired. She had perfected the art of royal diplomacy, showing grace under pressure, warmth in her engagements, and a profound sense of duty that resonated with the British public. But Kate's rise was not without challenges. The monarchy was still tethered to its history, and a woman ascending to the throne, especially under such extraordinary circumstances, raised questions that no one had dared ask before. The British public, while largely supportive of Kate, was still steeped in the traditions of royal succession. There were murmurs of uncertainty about what this new monarchy might look like. Would Kate truly be able to take the crown beside William? Would she have the political power to stand as queen in her own right? As Charles stepped back, it became clear that these questions were being answered quietly, behind closed doors. A series of private meetings were held among senior members of the royal family, advisors, and key political figures. The discussions focused on how to integrate Kate's growing influence with the existing structure of the monarchy, and how to manage public opinion about the upcoming shift in power. The royal advisors, who had long been the unsung architects of the monarchy's strategy, understood that they were at a crossroads. The decisions they made now would set the course for the future. In those early months, Kate and William were increasingly seen at the forefront of royal events. They were seen visiting international leaders, hosting major state dinners, and appearing at public ceremonies with a calm authority. William, as the future king, was expected to be the face of the monarchy, but Kate was just as visible. They appeared as a team, a unit that was ready to lead the country into a new era, side by side. Despite the growing support for the couple, not all of the royal family members were entirely comfortable with this shift. Prince Andrew, who had long been sidelined due to his scandals, expressed reservations about the rapid changes. Princess, and, ever pragmatic, had her own concerns about the speed at which Kate was rising. Though both had publicly supported the change, privately, there were concerns about the monarchy's ability to transition without losing its identity. But as the royal family began to embrace the change, it became apparent that Kate was uniquely suited for this moment. She was seen as a modern monarch who could keep the traditions of the royal family intact while also relating to the public in a way that few royals had been able to do before her. Her work with mental health advocacy, her dedication to children and families, and her impeccable public image made her an ideal figure to take on the mantle of queen. Her increasing prominence in royal life was further solidified as she was gradually introduced to more international roles. William and Kate's trip to the United States was seen as a crucial moment in this transition, as they met with world leaders and were heralded as a breath of fresh air for the monarchy. They were seen as relatable yet regal, modern yet grounded in royal tradition, a perfect mix for a monarchy that needed to evolve. But what was perhaps most telling about Kate's ascension was the way she handled the pressure. Her calm, her ability to balance royal duties with family life, her grace under public scrutiny, and her deep commitment to her causes made her a beloved figure. But there was an even deeper, unspoken quality that drew the public to her: Kate's quiet strength and unwavering dedication to her role in this new chapter of the monarchy. And behind the scenes, Kate was being groomed for more than just ceremonial duties. There was an understanding within the royal family that Kate would not simply stand by William's side as a queen consort. She would be an equal partner. The prophecy had made this clear. Kate's role was not just to support her husband, but to stand beside him as a co-ruler. This partnership, while unconventional by royal standards, was exactly what the monarchy needed in order to face the challenges of the modern world. As William and Kate continued to take on more responsibilities, Charles's diminished role became increasingly obvious. His absence at state functions, his quiet withdrawal from the limelight, and his gradual shift away from public duties were seen as the first signs of a monarchy preparing for a new kind of leadership. But even as Charles prepared to step back, there was no animosity. The royal family, perhaps for the first time, understood the need for this change, for the monarchy to survive and thrive in the future. Kate's role as queen was now not only a matter of prophecy, but of practical necessity. Her ability to connect with the public, her deep understanding of the monarchy's history, and her poised leadership made her a perfect fit for the monarchy's future. The coronation, though still far off, was now an undeniable certainty. Kate Middleton would ascend to the throne alongside William as the monarch who would guide Britain through the 21st century. The royal family's internal discussions about this future began to focus on the specifics: how to manage this transition publicly, how to deal with any lingering doubts among the public, and how to prepare Kate for the immense responsibility of ruling alongside her husband. What had once been an unlikely future was now becoming a certainty. Kate would not just be the consort of a king, she would be the queen in her own right. In the next chapter, we will explore the public reaction to Kate's growing role, the challenges she faced as she stepped into this new leadership role, and the ways in which the monarchy began to transform in the wake of this monumental shift in power. For King Charles, the prophecy was not simply a matter of royal politics. It was an emotional upheaval, one that forced him to confront the deep conflict between his duties as a monarch and his love for his family. The weight of knowing that his reign, despite decades of preparation, was destined to be brief was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet, as the days turned into months, Charles found himself grappling with not only the loss of his royal destiny, but with the strained relationship he had long shared with his son, Prince William. Charles had always been the heir, his entire life shaped by the expectation that one day he would wear the crown. It was a role he had grown accustomed to, even if it came with burdens that few could truly understand. Throughout his years as Prince of Wales, Charles had been the subject of relentless public scrutiny. Every decision, every action, was dissected by the media, and for much of his life, it seemed as though the crown was the one thing he could not attain. Now, after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth, it seemed that his moment had finally arrived. But as the prophecy revealed, his time as monarch would be fleeting. Charles's reaction to this revelation was one of internal turmoil. He had spent his entire life preparing to be king, believing that his reign would mark a new era for the monarchy. And yet, in one fell swoop, that dream was shattered. The prophecy, which had once seemed like a distant rumor, was now an inescapable truth. It wasn't just the loss of the crown that pained him. It was the sense of being eclipsed by his son, William. The father-son dynamic that had been fraught with tension for years now took on a new dimension. The idea that his son, the future king, would rise to power so soon was something that Charles had never truly considered. But as much as the prophecy shook him to his core, Charles knew that this wasn't just about him. It was about the monarchy. The institution he had spent his life upholding was now facing an unprecedented shift. The public had long expected William to eventually take the throne, but they had never imagined it would happen under such extraordinary circumstances. Charles's diminishing role would not just affect him personally, it would change the monarchy itself. And yet, in the midst of this turmoil, Charles found solace in one important truth. His son, William, was ready. William had been raised for this moment, just as Charles had been raised for his own. The difference was that William was not burdened by the weight of expectation that had so often clouded Charles's path. Where Charles had faced years of criticism and doubt, William had largely been seen as the hope for a new generation of monarchy. His charm, his modern sensibilities, and his deep understanding of the changing world had made him a beloved figure. And now, with Kate by his side, it was clear that William was poised to lead the monarchy into a new era, one that was more in tune with the needs of the people. But this reality didn't make it any easier for Charles. While he had come to terms with the fact that his reign would be short, he could not ignore the deep sense of loss that accompanied this knowledge. For a man who had spent his entire life in the shadows of the throne, this was the final blow. The dreams of becoming the monarch of the United Kingdom, of leading the country through the trials and tribulations of the modern world, would never come to fruition. In many ways, Charles was being asked to step aside, not just for his son, but for the future of the monarchy itself. In the weeks that followed the revelation of the prophecy, Charles began to spend more time in reflection. He knew that his role in the monarchy would forever be altered, but he also realized that he could still play a crucial part in shaping its future. As much as it hurt to accept that he would never wear the crown, he knew that he could still be a guiding force for William and Kate. He could still offer counsel, provide wisdom, and help ease the transition to the new era of monarchy. Yet, as Charles navigated this new reality, there were still many difficult conversations to be had, particularly with William. The father-son relationship, long strained by differing views on the monarchy, was now tested by the prophecy's implications. William had always been his father's successor, but now, he was not only the future king. He was the immediate ruler of the nation. For William, this meant stepping up to lead the monarchy in ways that even he hadn't fully anticipated. While Charles was resigned to the fact that he would never reign as king, it was clear that he had his reservations about passing the torch so soon. Despite his acceptance of the prophecy, there remained a part of him that feared for the future of the monarchy. Could William and Kate truly handle the immense pressure of ruling a nation in such uncertain times? Could they rise to the occasion and lead in a way that honored the legacy of the monarchy while embracing the changes needed for the future? For William, the question was just as difficult. He had always known that one day he would take the throne, but now, with his father stepping back and the prophecy hanging over them both, the responsibility was overwhelming. He had been trained for the role of king, but he had never expected it to come so soon. He had spent years watching his father navigate the challenges of royal life, learning from his example, and yet now, he was expected to take on the mantle of leadership in ways that had not been foreseen. As Charles and William navigated these difficult waters, there was one constant: Kate. While William was coming to terms with his new role as king, it was Kate who seemed to carry the weight of the monarchy's future on her shoulders. With every passing day, Kate's role became more and more central to the royal family's plans. She was no longer just the consort of the future king. She was an integral part of the monarchy's new vision, one that would see her not just as a supportive partner, but as a powerful figure in her own right. For Charles, the question of Kate's ascension to the throne was not one of doubt. It was one of acceptance. While the prophecy had foretold Kate's rise to power, Charles understood that she would be the figurehead of the new monarchy, standing alongside William as an equal. And in that realization, he found a glimmer of hope. The monarchy would continue, and it would evolve, but it would not forget its roots. Kate, with her unwavering grace and strength, would be the future queen, and Charles could take comfort in knowing that the monarchy he had worked so hard to protect would live on through her and William. As Charles's reign continued to fade into the background, the royal family began to take the necessary steps to prepare for the future. Charles's role would be to provide counsel and wisdom, while William and Kate prepared to lead. This moment, though marked by loss for Charles, was also one of renewal for the monarchy. The future was uncertain, but it was a future that Charles could embrace, knowing that his son and daughter-in-law would carry the torch forward. In the next chapter, we will explore how the royal family began to prepare for the public announcement of this monumental shift, and how the world reacted to the news that Charles would step aside in favor of William and Kate. The monarchy's future was now in the hands of a new generation, and the world would soon see the impact of this unprecedented change. The day that the royal family officially made the announcement of King Charles's reduced role in favor of William and Kate's rise to the throne, the world stood still for a moment. It wasn't merely an announcement of a new king and queen consort. It was the beginning of an era that no one had ever anticipated. The prophecy that had once seemed like an abstract concept, a whisper in the halls of the royal family, was now a reality. For weeks leading up to the announcement, speculation had run rampant. The media buzzed with rumors of Charles's dwindling influence and the growing prominence of William and Kate. Every public appearance, every subtle shift in royal duties had been scrutinized, with commentators and royal insiders alike trying to piece together the puzzle. But the moment finally came, when the royal family made the historic decision to confirm that the crown would not pass from Charles to William in the traditional manner. Instead, the monarchy would jump a generation, and William and Kate would ascend to the throne together. The decision was nothing short of revolutionary. For centuries, the British monarchy had adhered to the principle of primogeniture, the idea that the crown would pass from one monarch to the next, from father to son. The system was simple, straightforward, and, for the most part, unchallenged. The firstborn male was always the heir to the throne, and his ascension was a matter of public and royal protocol. But now, in the wake of the prophecy, that rule had been upended, and the future of the monarchy was about to be rewritten. The announcement came in a statement released by Buckingham Palace, one that was carefully crafted to ensure both clarity and dignity. It explained that, after much reflection and consultation, King Charles had decided to step aside as monarch, in accordance with the prophecy that had been passed down through royal history. The statement assured the public that this decision was made in the best interest of the nation and the royal family, and that William and Kate were ready to step into their new roles as king and queen, respectively. The language of the statement was deliberately neutral, aiming to convey the sense of inevitability surrounding the decision. The royal family, long known for its public restraint, chose to present the news as a natural progression, despite the upheaval it caused behind the scenes. The decision to skip a generation was not taken lightly, and the announcement was framed as a way to ensure the monarchy's survival in a changing world. The message was clear: this was not the end of the monarchy, but its rebirth. As the news broke, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. In the United Kingdom, as well as across the globe, people were left in shock. For many, it was hard to comprehend what had just been revealed. Charles, the long-awaited king, would not rule for long. William, his son, would ascend to the throne much earlier than anyone had imagined. And Kate, who had long been seen as the supportive consort, was now being heralded as the future queen, with a direct path to power that had never been anticipated. In the hours that followed, the media was flooded with analysis and commentary. News outlets around the world scrambled to understand the implications of the announcement. How would the public react to the idea of Charles stepping aside? What did this mean for the future of the monarchy? Would the people accept Kate as their future queen? These were just a few of the many questions being asked as the world adjusted to the seismic shift in the royal family. For many, the reaction was one of uncertainty. While there was broad support for William and Kate, there were concerns about what this change meant for the future of the monarchy. Charles had been a constant presence in British life for decades. His quiet strength, his dedication to his causes, and his work with various charitable organizations had earned him respect. Yet, despite his years of service, he would not be the one to carry the crown. The idea of the monarchy skipping a generation was difficult for many to accept. Some critics, however, saw the decision as a necessary one. The monarchy, they argued, needed to modernize. The old ways of doing things, which had long been characterized by rigid traditions and outdated customs, were no longer enough to connect with a modern, diverse, and dynamic society. The monarchy had to evolve, or it risked becoming irrelevant. And in this context, William and Kate represented the future. Young, energetic, and relatable, they were seen as the leaders who could guide the monarchy into a new era. Kate's role, in particular, became the subject of intense scrutiny. For years, she had been the picture of grace and composure, the dutiful consort of the future king. But now, with the prophecy revealing that she would ascend to the throne in her own right, the public began to ask whether she was truly ready for the immense responsibility that came with being queen. Would she be able to balance her role as a mother, wife, and monarch? Could she handle the intense pressure of ruling a nation alongside her husband? Kate's response to this mounting pressure was, as expected, one of poise and grace. Throughout her royal career, she had shown a remarkable ability to handle public scrutiny without letting it affect her. In the face of the prophecy and the announcement of her ascension to the throne, Kate remained calm and focused, presenting herself as a leader who was ready to take on the responsibilities of the monarchy. In the wake of the announcement, Kate's image began to shift. She was no longer just the wife of Prince William. She was the future Queen of England, a symbol of the monarchy's future and a leader in her own right. The public embraced her new role with overwhelming support. Her warm, down-to-earth demeanor, her commitment to her family and causes, and her tireless work ethic made her an ideal figurehead for the monarchy's next chapter. For William, the announcement marked the beginning of an era of greater responsibility. As the future king, he had always known that the monarchy would one day be his. But now, with the prophecy unfolding before him, he was being thrust into a leadership role far sooner than he had anticipated. The public's expectations of him, and of Kate, would be immense. Yet, with Kate by his side, William felt ready to take on the mantle of leadership, to guide the monarchy through a time of unprecedented change. As the royal family prepared for this monumental shift, the eyes of the world remained fixed on them. What would this new monarchy look like? How would it balance tradition with modernity? And, perhaps most importantly, how would Charles handle stepping aside for his son and daughter-in-law? In the next chapter, we will explore the reactions of the royal family to this groundbreaking decision. How did Charles and his siblings react to the news? What were the personal and emotional repercussions of this royal reshuffling? The monarchy had been forever altered, and the family that had spent generations adhering to a strict line of succession was now forced to confront the reality of change. When Buckingham Palace made the unprecedented announcement that King Charles would step aside, bypassing his reign in favor of William and Kate, the world watched with bated breath. The news was a bombshell, not just for the United Kingdom, but for the entire world. The British monarchy, one of the oldest institutions in history, was suddenly at the center of a global conversation. Questions swirled about the future of the monarchy, its role in modern society, and whether the royal family's centuries-old traditions could survive such a dramatic shift. The immediate reaction was a mixture of shock, confusion, and curiosity. The monarchy had long been seen as a symbol of stability and tradition. The idea of such a sweeping change was almost unimaginable for many. People around the world, particularly those in the UK, found themselves grappling with the reality that King Charles, who had waited his entire life for the crown, would never get the opportunity to rule as monarch. Instead, his son, Prince William, and his wife, Kate Middleton, would ascend to the throne together in a new era for the royal family. As the announcement was made, the British press went into overdrive. Headlines flashed across screens, with words like unprecedented, shocking, and monarchy in crisis. Royal correspondents, historians, and political commentators were all asked to weigh in on the implications of this shift. Some questioned the timing, wondering why such a decision was being made so soon after Queen Elizabeth II's death. Others praised the move as necessary, arguing that it was a bold step toward modernizing an institution that had become increasingly out of touch with the world around it. For the British public, the news was a lot to absorb. While there was widespread support for William and Kate, who had become beloved figures over the years, the idea of skipping a generation in the line of succession was a radical departure from the monarchy's long-standing traditions. The British royal family had always been a symbol of continuity, of unwavering stability in the face of changing times. Now, however, the monarchy was being forced to adapt to the realities of the modern world. The reaction abroad was equally intense. The British royal family had always held a unique place in the global consciousness. As one of the most famous families in the world, they were often seen as the embodiment of British tradition and national identity. With Charles stepping aside, many wondered how the world would view this shift. Would the monarchy be able to maintain its global influence? Or would this dramatic move cause irreparable damage to its reputation? In the United States, where interest in the British royal family has always been high, the announcement sparked a flurry of media coverage. American tabloids and news outlets were filled with speculation about what this change meant for the future of the royal family. For many Americans, the royal family was still an object of fascination. The news that Charles would step aside in favor of his son and daughter-in-law only deepened that intrigue. Many Americans were especially curious about Kate's role in this shift. Having always been seen as a poised and graceful consort, she was now thrust into the spotlight as the future queen. The question on everyone's mind was whether she would be able to handle the weight of the crown and what kind of monarch she would become. In Europe, the reaction was similarly mixed. While some applauded the monarchy's decision to embrace change, others saw it as an unnecessary break from tradition. The idea that Charles, who had been next in line for the throne his entire life, would be passed over for William and Kate was seen by some as a blow to the monarchy's credibility. For countries that had long been at odds with Britain's monarchy, such a dramatic change offered an opportunity to question the relevance of the institution. Could the monarchy survive without its traditional rules of succession? Could it maintain its prestige and power in an era where old-world institutions were increasingly under scrutiny? Even in the Commonwealth nations, countries where the British monarchy still holds a formal role, there were concerns about what this change would mean for their relationship with the crown. For many, the monarchy was a symbol of unity and continuity. But as Charles stepped aside, the future of the crown seemed less certain. Would these countries continue to recognize William and Kate as their monarchs, or would they demand more autonomy in choosing their own leaders? The royal family's public image was under intense scrutiny. While many people around the world admired Kate's elegance and grace, the question of whether she was truly ready for the throne was a source of constant debate. After all, becoming a queen was not just a ceremonial title. It was a heavy responsibility that involved navigating political and social complexities, dealing with international relations, and maintaining the monarchy's global image. Despite the uncertainty, there was a groundswell of support for William and Kate. Their popularity had only grown in the years leading up to this moment. William's calm demeanor, combined with Kate's relatable charm and poise, made them highly respected figures within the royal family. They had worked tirelessly on their charitable endeavors, championing causes that resonated with the public. From mental health to early childhood education, Kate and William had carved out a role for themselves as royals who were deeply in touch with the issues facing modern society. But now, with the crown within their grasp, the stakes had never been higher. Their ability to unite the public, lead the monarchy, and navigate the complex political landscape would define their reign. For the monarchy to survive, it would need to evolve, just as Charles had begun to understand. The prophecy, though jarring, had not been just about the future of Charles and his son. It had been about the future of Britain itself. As the news settled, the royal family knew that the public's reaction would be crucial to the success of this unprecedented change. The monarchy could not afford to alienate its people, not at a time when its very existence was being questioned. The decision to pass over Charles and crown William and Kate together was not just about power. It was about securing the monarchy's future. The question remained, however, would the British public embrace this new monarchy, or would they feel betrayed by the very institution they had long revered? In the coming months, the world would watch closely as William and Kate began to assume more responsibility. They would face challenges from within the royal family, from the media, and from the public. But the groundwork had been laid for the monarchy's new era. The prophecy had not just foretold a shift in the royal family's power. It had forced them to adapt, to modernize, and to embrace the future in a way that they had never before considered. As we move into the next chapters, we will explore the royal family's evolving dynamics, the challenges that lay ahead for William and Kate, and the deep emotional toll that the prophecy and its consequences took on Charles. The monarchy's future was no longer a question of tradition. It was a question of survival. As the world adjusted to the monumental shift in the royal family, the true weight of the prophecy became ever clearer. The British monarchy, a symbol of tradition for over 1,000 years, was now entering a new phase, one that would be defined not by the old rules of succession, but by a modern vision for the future. King Charles, despite his years of preparation and sacrifice, had been sidelined, and now it was Kate Middleton who stood on the precipice of becoming the first queen to ascend the throne without a male heir. The official coronation of William and Kate was still months away, but the signs of change were already apparent. Behind the gilded gates of Buckingham Palace, royal advisors worked tirelessly to plan the transition, ensuring that the monarchy could shift gracefully into this new chapter. The eyes of the world were fixed on the royal family, waiting to see how the nation would respond to this unprecedented change. And at the heart of it all was Kate. Kate's transformation from the quiet, supportive wife of Prince William to the future queen was swift and undeniable. Public opinion, which had already been largely favorable towards her, now surged in her favor. People around the world admired her grace, her beauty, and her ability to balance her royal duties with her role as a mother. But now, as the realization set in that she would not just be consort to the king, but an active ruler in her own right, Kate faced an entirely new set of expectations. The announcement that she would be crowned queen alongside William was met with widespread applause from the public, but it also came with its fair share of doubts. The British monarchy, for all its history, had never seen a woman rise to the throne alongside her husband. It had always been a system of male succession, where the king was the uncontested figurehead. But Kate's ascendancy was a direct break from this tradition, and it was clear that her reign would require a shift in how the monarchy interacted with the public and how it represented the British people. For Kate, the responsibility of the throne was immense. No longer would she be simply a figurehead standing behind her husband. She would share the spotlight, not as a passive consort, but as an active partner in the governance of the United Kingdom. The role of queen had always been one of both symbolic and political importance. For centuries, queen's consort had been expected to bear heirs and support their husbands. But now, Kate was poised to be a queen who would stand beside William as co-rulers, guiding the monarchy into a new era. The pressures on Kate were substantial. She had long been the subject of public fascination, with every aspect of her life scrutinized by the media. Now, as she prepared to take the throne, those pressures would only intensify. Her ability to balance the demands of her family, her public image, and her new role as queen would be tested in ways she had never imagined. But Kate was not without preparation. Over the years, she had been groomed for this moment in subtle ways. While William was expected to become king, it was Kate who had become the quiet force behind the throne. Her charitable work, her public appearances, and her interactions with the royal family had all prepared her for the weight of the crown. She had learned from the best, her husband, the late Queen Elizabeth, and her own experiences as a mother and wife. The question on everyone's mind was, how would Kate balance her royal duties with her personal life? As a mother of 3 young children, Kate had always placed her family first. But as queen, her role would require her to spend more time on public matters, often leaving little room for personal affairs. The demands of the monarchy were great, and Kate would have to learn to navigate this new world with grace and resolve. William, too, was facing his own set of challenges. The crown, which he had always expected to one day wear, now felt heavier than ever. As the new king, he had a responsibility not just to the monarchy, but to the British people. His reign, though new, would be defined by the decisions made in these early years. And by his side, always, would be Kate. Their partnership, which had already been the subject of much admiration, would now take on a new dimension. It was no longer just about supporting each other in their royal duties. It was about leading together. While William would be the king, Kate would be his equal, his partner in every sense. The monarchy, for the first time in history, would see a king and queen who ruled not just as husband and wife, but as co-leaders of a nation. The idea of co-monarchy was not an easy concept for everyone to accept. For centuries, the British royal family had been led by a single monarch. The notion of 2 individuals sharing the throne was revolutionary, and for some, unsettling. However, as William and Kate began to take on more responsibilities and demonstrate their ability to work together, the public began to warm to the idea. Their dynamic, respectful, compassionate, and mutually supportive resonated with people. In the eyes of many, Kate's role as queen was not just about being a consort or fulfilling a ceremonial role. It was about her leadership, her ability to connect with the people, and her commitment to the monarchy's evolution. Her rise to the throne, though unconventional, represented a new kind of monarchy, one that was less about tradition and more about the future. The coronation, which would take place in a grand ceremony that would be broadcast around the world, was a moment that everyone had been waiting for. It was a historic event, one that would forever change the course of the monarchy. As William and Kate prepared for this momentous occasion, they understood the weight of the responsibility they were about to take on. But beyond the pomp and circumstance of the coronation, there was a deeper truth. Kate, alongside William, was stepping into a role that would shape the future of the British monarchy. They were not just inheriting a crown, they were redefining it. In a world that was rapidly changing, the monarchy needed to evolve, to become something that was not just relevant but essential. And Kate, with her intelligence, compassion, and strength, was the figurehead of this transformation. As the world prepared to witness this historic moment, the question remained, could Kate and William rise to the occasion? Could they lead the monarchy into a new era while preserving the legacy of their predecessors? The answer, though still unfolding, seemed certain. Kate Middleton, now queen, was ready for the challenge. In the next chapter, we will explore how the monarchy began to adapt to this new reality. What changes would take place under William and Kate's leadership? And how would the royal family balance the demands of tradition with the need to evolve? The future of the monarchy was now in their hands, and the world was watching. The days leading up to William and Kate's coronation were filled with anticipation, but they were also fraught with questions about the monarchy's future. The prophecy that had so dramatically altered the course of royal succession now loomed over them like an unspoken truth. How would the monarchy, long defined by its rigid structures and traditional rules, adapt to this new reality? And what would the future hold for a kingdom that had just experienced its most extraordinary shift in centuries? For centuries, the British monarchy had been an unbroken line of succession, one that passed from father to son. This system had been seen as not just a rule, but a sacred duty, passed down through generations of rulers. The idea that the throne could skip a generation, bypassing King Charles in favor of his son William, was a break with tradition of monumental proportions. Yet, as the prophecy had foretold, that break was not just a mere political maneuver. It was something deeper, something almost cosmic in its implications. The prophecy had come not as a challenge, but as a guiding force for the future of the monarchy. In the years before the prophecy had been revealed to the royal family, many had questioned the relevance of the monarchy. Could it survive in a modern world? where its centuries-old traditions were increasingly seen as archaic and out of step with the times. The monarchy, once a symbol of divine right and royal power, had come to be seen as a symbol of the past. Many wondered if it could still serve a purpose in a rapidly changing society, where the monarchy's role was no longer as clear-cut as it had been in centuries past. But the prophecy had offered a new direction, one that would allow the monarchy to evolve while still holding on to its rich history and traditions. The shift to a more modern and collaborative monarchy, led by William and Kate, was not just a change in leadership. It was a reimagining of what the monarchy could be in the 21st century. It was a monarchy that would no longer be defined solely by its lineage, but by its ability to adapt and serve the needs of the people. This vision for the future of the monarchy was one that Kate embodied. Throughout her time as the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate had shown herself to be not just a consort, but a leader in her own right. Her work in mental health advocacy, her commitment to child welfare, and her dedication to modernizing the monarchy had already earned her widespread respect. As queen, she would have the opportunity to take on an even more significant role, guiding the monarchy into a new era. But this new era was not just about Kate. It was about the monarchy's ability to stay relevant in an ever-changing world. As Kate took her place beside William, the monarchy's public image would shift. It would no longer be an institution defined solely by its history, but by its ability to connect with the people. In many ways, this transformation had already begun. The monarchy's growing commitment to social issues, its increasing engagement with the public, and its embrace of modern technology had all been part of this shift. The question, then, was how the monarchy would balance the demands of its traditions with the need for change. The British public, who had long supported the monarchy, now found themselves at a crossroads. The decision to bypass King Charles was not just a personal one. It was a decision that would redefine the very nature of the monarchy. Would the British people accept this new direction, or would they feel betrayed by the break in tradition? In the aftermath of the announcement, the royal family began to carefully navigate the delicate balance between tradition and change. While there were those who questioned the wisdom of skipping a generation in the line of succession, there were also many who saw this as a necessary step. The monarchy, for all its grandeur, had been forced to confront the reality of a rapidly changing world. The very role of the monarchy was being redefined, and William and Kate were seen as the ones who could carry it forward. As the prophecy continued to unfold, the royal family understood that this moment was not just about William and Kate. It was about the future of Britain. The monarchy, for centuries, had been a symbol of stability and continuity. But now, it had to become something more, a living, breathing institution that could evolve alongside the country it represented. This new monarchy would need to be a monarchy that understood the needs of the people, that was responsive to the issues of the time, and that could lead with a sense of modernity while still respecting its rich history. For Charles, this transition was a painful one. He had spent his entire life preparing for the throne, and now, with the prophecy in full force, he was being asked to step aside. But while this loss was deeply personal for Charles, he understood that the monarchy's future depended on this change. He had always been a man of duty, and now, that duty required him to put the NE Kate's role in all of this was one of immense responsibility. As queen, she would be expected to not only support William, but to actively lead alongside him. This was a partnership that would be unlike any other in the history of the monarchy. It would require a delicate balance between public duty and personal sacrifice, between tradition and progress. Kate's ability to navigate these challenges would be crucial to the success of this new monarchy. For the British public, this new era of monarchy would be one of adjustment. Many would embrace the change, excited by the prospect of a more modern, dynamic royal family. But there would be others who felt that the monarchy's traditions were being undermined, that the very foundation of the institution was being compromised. The transition would not be easy, and the royal family would need to tread carefully as they moved forward into this uncharted territory. The prophecy, while shrouded in mystery, had set in motion a series of events that would forever change the course of British history. It was no longer just about King Charles, William, or Kate. It was about the monarchy itself. The future was now in the hands of a new generation, one that was ready to face the challenges of the modern world while honoring the legacy of the past. As William and Kate prepared for their coronation, the eyes of the world were fixed on them. They were not just inheriting the crown, they were reshaping it. The prophecy had set them on a path that no one could have predicted, but as they stood ready to take the throne, there was a sense of hope and anticipation. The monarchy was no longer a relic of the past. It was a beacon for the future. In the next chapter, we will explore the final preparations for William and Kate's coronation and how the royal family, the British public, and the world at large prepared for this unprecedented moment in history. The future of the monarchy was now clear, but the road ahead would be anything but easy. The news of William and Kate's ascension to the throne was a monumental shift, not just for the royal family, but for the entire nation. As the dust settled from the initial shock, the world began to turn its attention to what the future of the British monarchy would look like under their reign. The transition, while smooth on the surface, would not be without its challenges. The expectations placed on William and Kate were immense, and the eyes of the world would be watching their every move. In the months following their coronation, the royal family's newfound dynamic began to take shape. William, now king, had inherited the weight of the crown, and alongside him stood Kate, no longer just the consort, but a co-ruler in her own right. The idea of a partnership monarchy was revolutionary, and while it resonated with many, it was still something the British public had to adjust to. The monarchy had always been led by a singular figurehead, and the idea of sharing the throne was still a concept that was being tested. William, though prepared for this moment since birth, was now fully immersed in his role as king. The gravity of the situation wasn't lost on him. The weight of his mother's legacy, combined with the immense challenges facing the monarchy in the modern age, made for a difficult balancing act. While he had always been regarded as the future of the monarchy, the reality of that future was far more complex than he had ever imagined. He now had to navigate the delicate balance of maintaining the monarchy's traditions while modernizing it to fit the needs of a rapidly changing world. In the months after their coronation, William and Kate began to travel extensively, not just across the United Kingdom, but to international summits and events. Their first international tour as the new king and queen was a resounding success. Their ability to connect with people from all walks of life, combined with their shared commitment to charitable causes, made them beloved figures not just within the UK, but across the globe. It was clear that their approach to monarchy would be defined by a commitment to the public good, to modernize the royal family while maintaining its traditions. However, despite the overwhelming support they received, there were still skeptics who questioned the validity of their rise to power. For many, the monarchy was an institution that had been defined by its rigid rules of succession for centuries. The idea of bypassing King Charles was, for some, a breach of that sacred tradition. Though the prophecy had foretold this moment, the reality was still difficult for some to accept. Within the royal family itself, the transition was not without its strains. Charles, though publicly supportive of his son and daughter-in-law, had a complex relationship with the new monarchy. Though he had accepted his diminished role, the emotional toll of stepping aside for William and Kate was not something that could be easily overcome. For Charles, his legacy had always been tied to the idea that he would be the next monarch. To To see that slip away was a difficult personal challenge, but one he was determined to face with grace. Meanwhile, William's relationship with his younger brother, Prince Harry, began to see new tensions arise. The fracture that had existed between the two was now more pronounced. Harry, who had long felt sidelined by the royal family, now found himself in an even more complex position. While the prophecy had been clear about the succession, William and Kate would lead the monarchy. Harry's place within the royal fold seemed even less certain. Though he had expressed his support for his brother, it was clear that Harry's future in the royal family was no longer defined by his role as second in line, but by his personal choices and public image. Kate, for her part, navigated the challenges of being queen with an unwavering sense of purpose. She was determined to ensure that the monarchy's future was secure and that it remained relevant in a modern world. Her role as queen required her to step into a leadership position that many did not anticipate. While much of the public had seen her as a gracious consort to William, now she was a leader in her own right, sharing the duties of the throne and working side by side with her husband. One of the most significant challenges facing William and Kate's reign was the monarchy's need to modernize. The British people, while still supportive of the royal family, had grown more skeptical of institutions that clung to outdated traditions. The monarchy could no longer afford to simply exist as a symbol of the past. It needed to adapt to the changing landscape of politics, society, and culture. This task fell squarely on the shoulders of William and Kate, who understood that their leadership would be defined by how they could bridge the past with the future. The monarchy's role in the digital age was another major challenge. In a world where information spread instantaneously, the royal family could no longer rely solely on its traditional channels of communication. William and Kate embraced social media and modern technology, using these platforms to connect directly with the public. Their Instagram accounts became a window into the life of the monarchy, offering glimpses into their personal lives, their charitable work, and their vision for the future of the royal family. While the new monarchy was off to a strong start, there were still critics who questioned its relevance. For some, the monarchy was an outdated institution that had no place in the modern world. The idea of a hereditary monarchy, where the crown was passed down through bloodlines, seemed anachronistic to those who believed that power should be earned, not inherited. As William and Kate settled into their roles, they knew that their reign would be defined not just by the public's affection for them, but by their ability to prove the monarchy's worth in a rapidly changing world. The royal family's relationship with the media, long strained due to controversies and scandals, was also something that needed to be addressed. William and Kate, with their understanding of modern communication, sought to strike a new balance with the press. They were determined to be open and transparent, offering the public a more honest view of their lives as royal figures. But they also understood that they had to protect their personal lives and the lives of their children from the prying eyes of the media. In the coming years, William and Kate would face challenges from within their own family, from public opinion, and from the press. The prophecy that had once seemed like an impossible fate had now been realized, and the future of the monarchy was in their hands. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. William and Kate were determined to lead the monarchy with grace, intelligence, and compassion. Their reign would be defined by their ability to adapt to the modern world while maintaining the traditions that had made the monarchy a symbol of British identity for centuries. Together, they would face the challenges of the future and reshape the monarchy for a new generation. As we move into the final chapter, we will explore the legacy of William and Kate's reign and how their leadership shaped the monarchy for years to come. How would history remember their time on the throne? And what lasting impact would they have on the future of the British monarchy? As the years passed under the rule of King William and Queen Kate, it became clear that the monarchy had undergone a profound transformation. Their reign, once seen as an unprecedented shift in royal protocol, soon became viewed as the turning point for an institution that had struggled to stay relevant in the modern world. The world, and more importantly the British people, had watched as William and Kate navigated the complex terrain of monarchy in a time of global change. Their reign began with a sense of cautious optimism. The world was skeptical, wondering how this partnership monarchy, with Kate ascending to the throne alongside William, would function in a world that demanded both tradition and modernization. But as the years unfolded, their leadership, measured, relatable, and thoughtful, began to win the hearts of many, solidifying their place not just as monarchs, but as pivotal figures in shaping the future of the monarchy. William, no longer just the heir, but now the king, had grown into his role with remarkable confidence. What had once been a role filled with pressure and uncertainty had now become one where he seemed to thrive. His leadership style, a blend of compassion and pragmatism, resonated with both the British public and the world. Under his reign, the monarchy became more than just a figurehead. It became a living, breathing institution that worked to better the lives of the people it served. Kate, equally poised as the queen, brought an energy to the monarchy that was both fresh and powerful. Her rise from a commoner to a monarch was symbolic of the changing times, and she embodied a leadership style that was inclusive and forward-thinking. She wasn't just a consort, she was a queen in her own right. Her efforts to modernize the monarchy, combined with her warmth and relatability, made her a beloved figure both in the UK and abroad. The challenges William and Kate faced during their reign were not trivial. The monarchy had long been an institution tied to tradition, and many were hesitant to embrace the idea of a joint rule. The British monarchy had always been defined by the singular rule of a monarch, usually a male figurehead. Now, with Kate by William's side as queen, the monarchy had redefined what it meant to be royal. Together, they crafted a model of leadership based on collaboration, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to public service. One of the most significant challenges William and Kate faced was the need to balance the monarchy's rich history with the demands of the present. The world had changed drastically, and so had the role of the monarchy. In a time where people no longer simply accepted things because they were tradition, William and Kate understood that they needed to connect with the people in a way that previous monarchs had not. They did this through their accessibility, their charitable work, and their transparent leadership. Kate, in particular, used her platform to address pressing social issues, such as mental health and childhood education, and to advocate for causes close to her heart. She understood that in order for the monarchy to continue, it had to demonstrate a real and active commitment to the well-being of the people. Public opinion about the monarchy had always been a delicate issue, but during their reign, William and Kate proved that a monarchy could evolve with the times. They were able to maintain the traditional roles of the monarchy while simultaneously pushing forward with progressive initiatives. It wasn't always easy. There were still critics who believed that the monarchy was outdated, and there were moments of public scrutiny. Yet, time and time again, William and Kate proved that they were capable of navigating these challenges with grace and poise. Their relationship with the public was one of transparency and humility. They didn't shy away from their responsibilities, and their hands-on approach to royal duties helped them gain the trust and admiration of the British people. They made royal events less about ceremonial gestures and more about connecting with the public. They visited schools, met with families, and spent time with those in need, always demonstrating their commitment to being not just symbols of royalty, but active participants in improving the lives of the citizens they served. One of the most defining moments of their reign came in the aftermath of a national crisis. When a major disaster struck, devastating parts of the UK, William and Kate were at the forefront of the relief effort. They were seen visiting affected areas, offering comfort to those in need, and raising awareness for the efforts underway. Their ability to respond quickly and effectively to the needs of the public further solidified their place as monarchs who were in touch with the people, not detached from them. Over time, the monarchy became something that the people felt a greater connection to. William and Kate weren't simply the heads of state. They were seen as partners with the public, working hand in hand to address the issues of the day. This was a far cry from the days of strict royal distance, where the monarchy was often seen as an aloof institution, far removed from the realities of everyday life. Under William and Kate's reign, the monarchy became a more active and engaged force for good. Their reign also marked a period of unprecedented success for the British royal family in terms of its global influence. Their diplomatic efforts, their commitment to charitable causes, and their leadership on the world stage helped to increase the monarchy's influence across the globe. From hosting state dinners with foreign leaders to representing the UK at international summits, William and Kate proved themselves as capable figures in global affairs. Their ability to engage with the international community without losing sight of their roots in Britain made them an invaluable asset to the country. As time went on, it became clear that William and Kate's reign was not just about their public image. It was about their legacy, what they would leave behind for future generations. Their commitment to modernizing the monarchy, to serving the people, and to leading with compassion would be remembered as some of the most defining qualities of their reign. They didn't just occupy the throne, they transformed it. Their children, too, played a significant role in their legacy. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis were raised with the understanding that they were part of a family that was both royal and deeply connected to the people. They were raised not in the shadow of past monarchs, but as part of a new generation of royals who would help carry the monarchy into the future. As William and Kate looked ahead to the future, they knew that their time on the throne would one day come to an end, but they had already begun to lay the groundwork for a monarchy that would continue to evolve. Their children, as the next generation of royals, would take on the mantle of leadership when the time was right. The legacy of William and Kate was not just in the events they had overseen, but in the example they set for future generations of the royal family. Their reign had proven that the monarchy was not a static institution, bound by tradition and history, but a dynamic force capable of growth and adaptation. William and Kate had embraced this transformation, and in doing so, they had ensured that the British monarchy would continue to serve its people, strong, resilient, and ever-evolving. As we conclude this journey into the future of the British monarchy, one thing remains clear. William and Kate's legacy will be remembered not just for their reign, but for the way they reshaped the monarchy, ensuring its place in the future while honoring its rich history. As the reign of King William and Queen Kate unfolded, the British monarchy found itself at a crossroads. What had once been a rigid, centuries-old institution was now embracing change, and at the heart of this transformation stood a couple who had long been regarded as the future of the royal family. Their rise to the throne, marked by the divine prophecy that had cast a long shadow over their destiny, was more than just a change in leadership. It was the dawn of a new era. The story of how the monarchy came to be led by a king and queen, not by the traditional passing of the crown, but through the will of a hidden prophecy, was one of extraordinary twists, unforeseen revelations, and the slow but inevitable march of destiny. The world had watched as King Charles, despite a lifetime of preparation, had been bypassed in favor of his son and daughter-in-law, a decision that, while difficult, would ultimately redefine the monarchy for generations to come. As William and Kate ascended to the throne, their reign was not merely a continuation of what had come before. It was a revolution wrapped in the trappings of tradition, a monarchy that would remain rooted in its history but evolve to meet the needs of the modern world. Their ability to balance these two forces, the weight of tradition and the demands of progress, was key to their success. The people of Britain, and indeed the world, began to see William and Kate not just as royals, but as leaders who were deeply in touch with the realities of modern life. Through their charity work, their unwavering support for social causes, and their genuine connection with the public, they transformed the monarchy into a dynamic institution, one that was no longer a symbol of a distant, detached authority, but one that worked tirelessly to improve the lives of its people. Their commitment to mental health, education, and environmental causes made them beloved figures, seen not just as monarchs, but as champions for change. However, their reign was not without its challenges. The monarchy's radical departure from centuries of tradition had not been without its detractors. While many embraced the idea of a modern, progressive monarchy, others felt that the monarchy's essence had been diluted. The British people, long proud of their royal heritage, found themselves grappling with the question of whether this new, more open monarchy could still hold the same power and prestige as the one their ancestors had known. But for William and Kate, the answer was clear. Power did not lie in tradition alone. The power of the monarchy lay in its ability to connect with the people, to serve the nation, and to lead by example. By modernizing the monarchy, they were not erasing its past, they were ensuring its future. They had taken the mantle of leadership with humility, understanding that their reign would be judged not by how well they upheld the traditions of the past, but by how effectively they could steer the monarchy into the future. Their commitment to service was not just a royal duty, it was a personal calling. The monarchy, in their eyes, was not a symbol of untouchable privilege, but a platform for enacting real change. Their leadership was grounded in their understanding of the world's challenges, and they worked tirelessly to use their influence for the greater good. Whether it was their work in championing mental health awareness, their dedication to the causes of early childhood education, or their advocacy for the environment, William and Kate were reshaping the monarchy into something more than just a ceremonial institution. It was a living, breathing force for progress. The prophecy that had foretold their rise was not just a supernatural event. It was a reflection of the changing tide of history. The monarchy could no longer remain a relic of the past, locked in an era where power was simply passed down through bloodlines. Instead, it had to evolve, to reflect the diversity and complexity of the modern world. In this new world, the monarchy had to be seen not as an outdated institution, but as one capable of evolving alongside the people it served. Kate's transformation into queen was a perfect example of this. She had long been a beloved figure, admired for her grace and warmth, but her ascension to the throne was never about her simply being a supportive consort. It was about her ability to lead, to step into a role of immense responsibility, and to do so with an understanding of the challenges facing both the royal family and the nation. As queen, Kate was not just a symbol of grace and beauty. She was a beacon of strength, resilience, and hope. She embodied the new monarchy, a monarchy that embraced the future without discarding the past. As for William, his leadership was defined by a quiet determination. Though the expectations placed upon him were immense, he never wavered in his commitment to his duties. He understood that his role as king was not just about leading the country. It was about ensuring that the monarchy remained relevant and respected in a rapidly changing world. His ability to balance the demands of the throne with his personal values made him a figurehead of a modern monarchy, one that had the power to shape the future, not just reflect the past. Together, William and Kate proved that the monarchy could evolve without losing its place in British society. Their reign had not just redefined what it meant to be royal. It had redefined the very role of the monarchy itself. Their shared leadership, built on a foundation of respect, understanding, and commitment to the people, set the stage for a future where the monarchy could thrive in the 21st century. As we look ahead, the future of the British monarchy seems brighter than ever. William and Kate have proven that the monarchy is not just an institution of the past. It is one that can move forward, adapting to the needs of the people and the challenges of the modern world. Their legacy will not be defined by the traditions they upheld, but by the changes they embraced, the paths they forged, and the lives they touched. The monarchy is not a static entity. It is a living, breathing force that grows and changes with the times. As William and Kate take the throne, they continue to ensure that the monarchy remains relevant, resilient, and capable of meeting the needs of future generations. The story of their reign is just beginning, but already it has rewritten the future of the British monarchy, forever altering its course for years to come.